Hey, I figured it out. Let's go. What's up, everyone? I am still very much figuring out how to do this live stream. It looks like it's kind of tweaking right now. I'm currently on LinkedIn and YouTube. I don't know if doing both is the way to go, but we're trying this out. It's a learning. Oh no. Um, but yeah, pumped to be here. Pumped to do a little live stream, uh, and we'll learn as we go. So I feel like a few things I want to say before I get into ask me anything questions. Um, First, yeah, I'm very much still figuring things out. Like using some new streaming platform, I could do cool things like this. I don't know what the delay is. That's one thing that I'm a little bit worried about, but hopefully it's not too bad. Um, but figuring it out. So I want to make this like overall, my goal is to be more consistent with content. And I think as part of that, I feel like doing more live streams is a huge benefit. So I figured it's a good starting point to just do this Ask Me Anything, answer some questions, have some fun. But if you have any ideas for like projects we could work on as part of a live stream, topics that you would want to deep dive into, uh, anything, I would say, like, please let me know in the chat. Um, and uh, um, I think other than that, too, yeah, if there's any questions throughout this specific live that you want me to answer, just yeah, let me know in the chat. I see some comments both on YouTube. Oh, I think mostly YouTube right now. I don't know if LinkedIn is working, to be honest. If you're in LinkedIn, post a chat and I'll see if I can see it. I might not be able to see it, but what's up, Rohan? And Data Love says, not really a question, but I won a hackathon yesterday and some cash prize. That's awesome. That's sick. I'm curious what you built. That's really cool. Um, we see what's up, Jesufeme. Thank you for the 7 questions. I probably botched your name, so I apologize for that. But I thank you for the questions. Um, cool. And I see Amir. I think Amir commented maybe on my post too, the same question. So maybe that would be a good starting point. And please upload more project for data science end-to-end projects. I will definitely be working on it. Oh, wow. What's up, Logan? My man. Logan was an MIT friend of mine, or is an MIT friend of mine. All right, figuring this out. I think we're good to get going though. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to do this properly, but we're getting there. Um, cool. I think we can start with a first question. Actually, maybe let's just give it a sec. People, let me know where you're watching from. I feel like that's always fun. I'm curious what locations we have. I'm in like the Boston area right now. Boston, been here for a long time since school. But yeah, a lot of good questions already coming in, and I already have some questions prepared. So we'll see how we balance it. Do you accept connection request on LinkedIn? I'll try to accept as many connection requests on LinkedIn. I see this is a message from Kevin. Um, I would say though, just make sure to put a note that you're coming from YouTube, coming, where you have found my content because I just get a lot sometimes and I don't know who is coming from where. So if you leave a note, 99% certainty I'll accept your connection request. Got India, London, Canada. I feel like being in London, Canada is a bit confusing probably whenever you're saying where you're from. I do know that I think London has a good junior ice hockey team though. Yeah, we have London, Canada, and London, UK already here, so it's kind of funny. Morocco, nice. All right, I'm gonna dive into some questions. I did see one, and I think I can do this cool thing where I can show questions directly on the screen. Okay, we got a question from Amir. I'm gonna show it on the screen. Hopefully, this works. How oversaturated is the data science job market, and will things improve in your opinion? So this might be a repeat question that I saw in one of my comments before I did this live stream. Uh, that comment specifically asked, like, should I focus on data engineering or these other fields? Um, my opinion here is that there's still tons of opportunities in the data science job market. I think one thing that's challenging with data science specifically is that it's a very broad term. Whether you're working in like a natural language processing area, whether you're doing like data analysis, whether you're doing computer vision tasks, it's all encompassed in this big umbrella of data science. So I think sometimes it can be hard to land a job in the data science job market because what companies are looking for and what skill sets people have that are targeting data science jobs don't always match. So in some regards, like I don't think the data science job market is um, oversaturated, but I think that sometimes it's hard to target specific skills, whereas in like data engineering, it might be way more clearly defined what you need to learn to land jobs, and also as a company hiring, it's more clear what you need. At the end of the day, I think that my goal with anything learning to code data science is if you can get to the point where you're confident in building out projects from scratch, and if you're given a new task and you're confident that even if you don't know how to do it right now, you can figure it out. Um, Basically, that's the point you want to get to, and you'll be able to land data science jobs. Hopefully, that is helpful. All right, let's see some other questions. We'll try to show another one on the screen. Let's see. What would be a good question? Um, Still looking through all these questions. I like. Oh no. uh, there we go. I like this question. I feel like this is a common question. How much maths is needed to get a data science job? I always love the discrepancy. I feel like in America and United States, we say math. I feel like in a lot of Europe, it's maths. I feel like maths is more fun. I feel like I want to start saying maths more. But regardless, the point is the same. How much math is needed to get a data science job? I think this is an interesting question. My opinion here is that most of the libraries that you deal with, if you're programming in Python, R, any other similar languages, a lot of the complex math has been abstracted out. It's built into libraries that you use, so you don't necessarily need to reinvent any math from scratch in whatever you're doing in data science. That being said, I think that um, you want to have an intuition for how the math is working, how these things are working under the hood. The more intuition you have, whether this be statistics, whether this be the calculus that goes into machine learning models and gradient descent and finding local minimums, local maximums, having that intuition is definitely helpful. But I think if I was to pick one thing to learn and focus on, if I was trying to land a data science job, it'd be more so actually building with Python, building with programming languages versus the underlying math. I would say if you can kind of balance the, learning some of the math alongside building projects, that's great. But the focus should be more on building. And if you have the ability to kind of upskill and get under the hood and really get that level of depth, that's great too. Um, Pop this question off. All right. Still a lot more questions coming in. It's funny. I put a bunch of um, messages and questions to answer like together before even starting this, and I feel like I'm not even going to touch like any of those because a lot of questions are coming in on the chat. Um, let's see. I think this is definitely a very popular question and super, super relevant right now. So thank you for the question. Can you please share some basic roadmap to learn generative AI and LLMs? Um, yeah, I think a really good starting point here in the generative AI and LLM space, I feel like there's two different avenues, and this is very similar to the math question we were just chatting about. uh, there's like, can you learn the underlying theory and how these things work, and can you actually use them in practice? And I think that kind of doing these side by side is a good approach. So the generative AI and LLMs phase very much kicked off. I feel like the first paper that really like set all of this craziness in motion was this paper called "Attention is All You Need" that was published by Google. It basically introduced this transformer architecture, which before the transformer architecture, for a lot of the NLP tasks, you're using recurrent neural nets. And these transformers were just much better at kind of this long term making connections in language models. So, attention all you need was a kind of a paper that set this off and like everything is kind of built on. So I might go back and learn some of the transformer basics and kind of get some of that underlying how this works. I know personally a YouTuber of the name Yannick Kilcher has a great like overview of this attention is all you need paper. So that can kind of help you on the theory side. But then I think again, you want to just like you don't need to know all the underlying theory on generative AI and LLMs to use them in practice. So I would just get my hands dirty and try to build projects with um, these large language models. I would definitely use the OpenAI API. I would definitely maybe tap into other open AIs or other open APIs. So like Anthropic definitely has a good one. You can kind of tap into Claude. I know I've used Cohere's API for their language models. I think it's also worth getting your hands on open source models. So the way that I access this in Python is Olama, uh, very popular framework. And I recommend just a shameless plug my most recent video on LLMs and yeah, solving real world data science problems with LLMs. Most recent video on YouTube, definitely a good holistic overview of like all these skills. So maybe check that out. But hopefully that is helpful on that question. Uh, how do I hide this? Okay. All right. Let's see. Um, okay. There's some, yeah, a lot of really good questions. I really appreciate all these questions. I can't, won't be able to answer all of them. So I'm trying to do my best. I'm new to this whole live stream game, but let's see. There was a good question I saw. Jack the Skipper. I liked your question. Um, Jack the Skipper asks, "Hi Keith, what future-proof tech career should someone focus on who's looking to reskill slash change career?" Um, I've seen a couple questions in this kind of vein. I think that I don't know. It's crazy how fast all this AI stuff has been getting pumped out, and it's I think yeah, definitely alarming. It's like, okay, are my skills that I have now going to be useless in 5 years? It's definitely unsettling. That being said, I think that like no matter where we go, I mean, I think we're still early on in the grand scheme of things as far as AI goes, and I think that right now any AI tool still needs like an orchestrator. It still needs someone that has this ground level base of knowledge that understands what's going on under the hood. Um, so my recommendation for a future-proof tech career. Uh, I don't think that software engineers or data scientists are going anywhere. I think that you'll be able to, whatever programming language you want to learn, you'll be able to have career opportunities with that skill set. I think the biggest thing that would make yourself future proof, though, is that don't disregard the tools that are coming out. You need to learn programming, learn these tech skills alongside learning whatever the latest and greatest AI tools are. So learn how to program and build projects, let's say in Python, in Java, in JavaScript, but do it alongside tools like um, GitHub Copilot, Visual Studio Code. I guess it's the same Copilot, alongside GPT-4, alongside Claude, all these models. Like you want to definitely learn your skill, whether that be software engineering, data science, cybersecurity, alongside whatever AI tools are coming out. And if you can combine the two, you should be good as far as future proof goes. But you really need to stay up to date on what the trends are. If you don't upskill, if you don't keep learning as you go, that's where you're going to start, losing opportunities, in my opinion. Let's see. Uh, I definitely have a a challenge with like analysis paralysis on choosing which questions to look at. I should have like done some polling or something ahead of time to make it easier to pick. And I do see another chat message that's would like you to create more Gen AI videos in the future, and I definitely will. I think that I want to make some more videos on like LangChain and some of the libraries that are very relevant here. So more projects in that vein on the way. But also, yeah, feel free to let me know ideas on what to build. Let's see. Oh, I do like. Let me see. I'm gonna actually open up. Let's see. There's. Oh no. Okay, I like talking about a little bit of data science and algorithm. So DSA, for people unfamiliar with that acronym, data structures and algorithms. Is it necessary to get a job in data science? Um, I definitely think you need a base level of data structures and algorithms knowledge to land a job in data science, and honestly, most of programming. But you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be like the same level as like a computer science theoretician. Is that the right word? Theor person that does computer science theory. Like you don't need to be knowing P versus NP, like complexity, like crazy stuff like that. But you should know the basics of like, okay, is the code I'm writing, does it run in uh, n time? Does it run in n squared, like exponential time? Like you should know the basics of like run times, what's efficient, what's not efficient, optimizing memory, understanding that we have finite resources. Even though our computers are getting faster and faster, we still have finite processing resources, and we want to optimize the best we can. Usually, the resources we take advantage. So definitely, you want a basic level of data structures and algorithms knowledge, but you don't need to be an expert. But you should know basics of runtime. You should know basics of how to evaluate like storage complexity. So kind of knowing like, is it log n runtime n squared, etc. Um, I think it's fun. So I think more is usually going to be helpful. It sometimes lets you think about things creatively, but uh, getting the basics is what's most important. I wish I had a resource handy that would like be a good drop down list of what skills I'm talking about here. Maybe I can think about putting that together as a video in the future. Um, yeah. I think in that vein, I know another question just on the data science and algorithm structure that was related, and I think it might make sense to bring up while we're talking if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This was a question that was sent ahead of time. How to get good at data structures and algorithms. Uh, if you want to get good, and definitely this includes the basics that I was just talking about, I think a really smart spot to start, and this can kind of like you can start here and then branch off as you need. But I know that MIT, the course that I took when I was an undergrad, MIT 6006, which is the Introduction to Algorithms class. If you look up MIT 6006, and maybe I can put this in the chat. MIT 6006 OCW. Let's see. I can put it in the YouTube chat. If you look this up, the whole like spring 2020 MIT algorithms class is online. And I really recommend if you want to get good at data structures and algorithms, watch through a lot of the lectures there. Look at the homework assignments and the quizzes and like reading about algorithms and watching algorithms, you're not going to get as much as you're not going to learn what you need. It really comes down to applied practice. So trying out the quizzes, trying out the tests will be really helpful. You're probably not going to be able to ace any of the tests right away, but keep repeating. Like I used to when I studied data structures and algorithms very intensely, I would print out all the practice tests I could find. I would do them, fail them miserably, like, as I was studying, and then I would print out those same practice tests, blank again, in a day or 2 later, and try those same tests again, and, like, build up, slowly I would just understand more and more and just have an intuition for how to approach these problems, and I felt that was super helpful, the applied practice and, like, struggling at first, getting outside your comfort zone, super helpful here. So from a, content perspective, I think that looking at the MIT 6006 course is great. Some other things that I recommend, I really liked Cracking the Coding Interview book. I feel like they have a lot of I think they cover the concepts as well as have a ton of practice there too. Another great place to check out. Yeah, look at yeah, Cracking the Coding Interview. I'm trying to think of other things. And yeah, just really a matter of applied practice. So starting to write code, implementing some of these things, seeing it in code will be very helpful too. But it's all about learning the theory and actually applying it with quizzes, tests, etc. How do I unshow this? Okay, perfect. Uh, Again, I'm figuring out. I'll share this one just to take a break. Rizwan, thank you for being an early subscriber. I hope I'm doing well. Uh, I think the challenge I'm gonna try to be way more consistent. That's why I'm live streaming right now. Definitely my challenge is I like to build large projects, like the last video, the LLMs project video that I think it was released, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. It just took a while to prepare, record, edit, and so these long project videos take a while, and then that's what makes me not post frequently. So I think it's a matter of having short video ideas as well alongside that, and I think the biggest thing that would help me out as far as this goes is I just always wanna hear more ideas. I wanna hear what will be helpful to everyone, and hopefully I can, balance the long projects with the shorter videos and post more regularly. I say this all the time that I'm gonna post more consistently. I'm really aiming to be better this time, but, just things pop up and it's just hard to be consistent. Um let's see. Ah, yeah, I like the live. Thank you, for I'm definitely down to stream more. Live problem solving will be easy. It's honestly easier for me to do a live task than to do like an ask me anything type session like this, because then it's a very guided, very focused thing. Whereas right now, I feel like I'm like trying to figure out what questions to pop in as we go. Let's see. Okay, I like this question from Sammy here. Thank you for the kind words first, Sammy. How much do you need to know for entry roles slash college internships? I've seen a couple similar questions to this pop up, and I think the thing is like you could always know more. You could always feel like you're not quite ready, and I definitely think I've seen from other people on YouTube, like Alex the Analyst and others, that really recommend like you're never maybe going to feel ready, but just start applying, as early as possible. But my recommendation is like just keep applying, keep going at things, but as you do that, keep leveling up your skills. Um, it very much varies for entry level roles and college internships. What I really recommend though is that the point that everyone should try to get to with their programming and data science knowledge is to be at the point where someone could just give you a project idea like, hey, I have all of this sales data and I just need to get some meaning out of it. And where you want to be, like the spot where you want to be, where jobs will start coming, is you want to be at the point where you can basically say, okay, there's the sales data and they need insights. It's a blank slate. I feel confident enough that I can take this data, crunch it, provide some insights from it, and deliver that to the company. Like you want to be at the point where you're confident in ability to take a blank slate and like make value out of it. And I think when applying to jobs, you don't need to know every skill, but if you can communicate, hey, I don't know this right now, but I'm confident I can learn it. And here's projects I've done that show that I'm capable. Opportunities will definitely start opening up their doors. So I feel like it's hard to ever feel truly ready, but apply. And then if you have like lack of success in interviews and, um, uh, screening calls, et cetera, take that information and learn more on the side, learn the stuff that they said that you didn't know, and then just build a better and better resume for yourself. Um, yeah, I like this, Tesla Messi, says, "Get to the point where you can build a project from start to end, even if ChatGPT assists you." Exactly, like, that's perfect for landing entry-level roles and, um, uh, internships. Okay, I see this is definitely the second time I've seen this question, and this time it's largely in capital letters, so I think I need to answer this one. How important is domain knowledge for data science? I think domain knowledge is an extremely, extremely valuable way to separate yourself from the field. For I guess a example in my own professional career, I for a short period of time worked for the Florida Panthers ice hockey team. It's a National Hockey League team, NHL. Yeah, uh, I'm a huge hockey player and fan, so it was a really, really cool opportunity. Um, and really, I think the reason I was able to land this role as an data analyst for the Florida Panthers was because I am extremely passionate about ice hockey. I've played since I was like 4 years old, I don't know, maybe younger. I still play like multiple times per week. And having the data science background and knowledge being, having a computer science degree alongside playing ice hockey my whole life, it really separated myself, I think, from other people that would be looking for roles like that. And I was able to get an opportunity working in sports analytics, working in the NHL. And that was very much because it was something I was passionate about, loved, knowledgeable about. But that very much extends to so many different career paths. Let's say you're working in the healthcare field and you want to transition into data analytics, data science. Really tap into that and leverage that to make yourself a more impressive, more enticing, I guess, candidate. You might not know everything about data science, but if you can be like, hey, I've worked in this profession for 10 years, I know the ins and outs, I can provide insights others can't, that will set you a leg up from a lot of others. Um, it's not a requirement. You can definitely get into a field without having domain knowledge, but I just think that for a lot of us trying to break into data science, a data engineering, data analytics role, if there is something that you do have a lot of knowledge about, leveraging that definitely can help you get your foot in the door. Um, this is a crazy thing that happened. I don't know if people saw this story, but uh, Amazon had these. I don't know if they were just in the United States or if they were international in Canada as well. But they had these grocery stores that you could go in, grab items you wanted. Maybe you wanted, a Gatorade and some candy bars, and you could grab them and just walk out. And like you'd receive a receipt, and an hour or two later, or maybe sooner, with all of your purchases. And at the time, it was very much marketed as like the advancement, the biggest advancement in AI. I mean, this was a few years ago where this first rolled out, maybe for like 5 years ago. But yeah, happened to be largely behind the scenes, a lot of labeling, international help labeling things as orders were made, and like it wasn't pure AI, it wasn't pure machine learning models that was like calculating these receipts and what people took. A lot of it was people reviewing the footage and um, ultimately like confirming that's what they took. It was a lot of human help. That being said, though, if you I think look into it a bit more, it wasn't like they were just lying about using AI and machine learning models to do this. I think that with anything you build, Amazon especially like wants to move as fast as possible for a massive organization like this. And this is a very hard problem to build these grocery stores where people can just walk out and have all of the things they took automatically calculated, the cost and exactly what they took, because you could take something out, put it back on the shelf. It's a hard problem to solve. So they very much took the approach of move fast, have these human labelers help confirm that orders are right. And then ultimately over time, things will get better and we won't need these human labelers. But I think what ultimately the reason that AI or Amazon kind of canned this whole just walk out technology was that after several years of doing this, they still had on average of like 1,000, I think, purchases, 700 of them needed to be manually reviewed. And they were aiming ultimately to get their AI models to be good enough where it was only like 30 or 50 out of 1,000. So, uh, wild news story, but I think that like there wasn't like malicious intent here. It was just that they couldn't figure out how to make the technology work, and even with the labeling help, it just wasn't, I guess, realistic. So interesting to see if anyone else tries to do something like this again in the future. But definitely a fun story to follow. I definitely encourage others to read more into this if you haven't seen this. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, let's do a LinkedIn question because I feel like I've not been giving people watching on LinkedIn any love. Uh, any good data project to increase and understand how to increase company visibility? I don't know if I fully understand this question specifically, so feel free to add um, some more detail here. But I think the biggest thing with any projects that people might be doing, if you want to improve your resume, improve your portfolio, I think like there's a few elements that I think are very important. One is like do something that you're personally passionate about. I think you see so many people and on different platforms doing the same projects as everyone else. It's like a very common one is the Titanic data set in Kaggle. I feel like everyone talks about. And there's nothing wrong with learning more programming skills through using like this Titanic data set on Kaggle. But I think the thing is, if you're going to showcase this project off to potential employers, uh, if you see the same project as everyone else has, it's not very interesting. So you want to choose projects that are personally interesting to you. So as I mentioned previously in a question, like I'm very excited and interested in ice hockey. I might explore opportunities in the ice hockey realm, crunching, season analytics data, building models, visualizing maybe where people shoot from. Like that might be a project I would build, and it's cool to show off to employers because they see that I'm passionate about something, and I went at and I took the initiative to like build something with that. So um, find something you're passionate about, and then I think the biggest thing here too is like if you're trying to market this to employers, you really need to focus on the aesthetics of this. Even though this might be a data science coding project, employers looking at your resume, looking at your portfolio are going to spend very little time actually uh, actually looking at your resume, at your portfolio. They might spend. I feel like there was a study that they spend on average like 7 seconds on first pass. So you want to show off any projects you do in a very visual, very easy to digest way. Um, I did a recent video on like improving your GitHub profile. I think it was my second latest video. But basically, like one of my recommendations is like catchy headline of, you know, title of project, catchy like one or two sentences about what the project was at a high level, a visual, maybe like a video, GIF, or image kind of showcasing the project, and then kind of going into the details of how to look at the code. You really want to capture in a simple to understand way what the project's all about. Because even if it's the best code in the world, if you don't make it exciting very quickly to someone that's looking at it, um, it's going to just kind of be pushed to the side, and you're going to be kind of they're not going to see it. So you want to make them see it. Uh, 7 sec. I see someone say 7 seconds never. Lol. It's 2 to 3 seconds at top. Yeah, it's crazy. People are really quick, so you got to impress them extremely quickly. All right. I see a couple of questions about like RAG and vector databases, kind of one and the same. Um, so there's a question here. Do you think we should all learn vector databases? So at a very high level for people that aren't familiar with vector databases, I think traditionally we have, I mean, it's not like they went away, databases that are indexed on very concrete numbers. So maybe it's just every item that's added to the database has an ID that is monotonically increasing. So you first item is index 1, the 50th item is index 50, etc. And you can kind of like sort things based on when things were added. Maybe your date is your index. I think that's really interesting about vector databases is it's indexed on semantic vector information. So you take like a sentence like um, the cat jumped over the dog, and like you can map that to a quantitative vector. And then if you see a similar sentence like the dog jumped over the cat, uh, you can connect that similar semantic sentence to that first sentence using a vector database. Really interesting because I think one of the challenges with language is that sentences that can mean very similar things can often be worded in very different ways. So especially if people are like reviewing a product or something, vector databases are a really powerful way to group things together and make it more easily searchable, etc. So I think that people should have a high level of knowledge of vector databases. I think they're very popular, super hot right now. I think that it's a really great opportunity to, if you're working on personal projects or something, to try to tap into vector databases. So maybe use Pinecone, or there's a lot of different vector database providers kind of popping out. So definitely, I think it's a fun idea for projects you might work on. Um, Trying to think of good like project examples with vector databases. I think I will definitely try to make one on this YouTube channel. So I'm like struggling to think of one right now, but I'll definitely try to make some content with vector databases soon. So high level, you should definitely know about it, and I encourage all of people to work on a simple project or something, playing around with it a bit more. Um, I don't know if I would necessarily say everyone has to learn about vector databases, but I think you should just be at least high level familiar with them. All right. I'm gonna probably go. I think I'm gonna probably keep this live stream at like exactly an hour. So about 39 minutes in. It's going well. Thank you everyone for like providing a ton of good questions. Yeah, probably call it at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's where I'm at, or Eastern Daylight Time. I always forget with this whole uh, daylight savings time thing. Okay, cool. I see a good question on web scraping. Probably worth looking at. Freelancing with Sakib, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, says, I've sent you a couple questions regarding web scraping, but you didn't respond. I'm sorry I didn't respond. I try my best, but I definitely miss a lot of questions and can't respond to everything. Web scraping is helpful in collecting data for data science. So what do you think about web scraping being like illegal? Like, this is a really interesting question. There's definitely a push and pull. So I think this probably varies by nation and where you're web scraping, but I know here in like the United States, like anything that's not behind a login is technically fair game, perfectly legal to web scrape. Um, so as long as it's not behind a login, you don't have to, like it's not sensitive data that only people with certain level of authentication can access. It's fair game to web scrape. that being said, it's also fair game for companies to um, try their best to prevent you from web scraping. So there's kind of this push and pull where if it's public data, you're pretty safe to try to scrape it, but the company is also safe to try to prevent you from scraping it. Um, One thing that is worth looking at, and all right, we're going crazy here. Let's see if I can. I'll share a tab real quick. This is new ball game. Um, Actually, I don't even know if this will work perfectly properly. I'm gonna try my best. All right, this is dangerous territory. Um, okay, I think it's probably fine though. Um, if you look at YouTube or something like should be for most sites. You can look up a page called the robots.txt. And for most big platforms, this is like what they technically don't want you to do. So use this maybe as somewhat guidance, but typically, if a site doesn't have anything here, it's very fair game. But still, even if they have things here, I would say um, it's, you know, as long as you're not doing anything behind a login, it's pretty fair game. But it is an interesting balance. Um, Let me think of anything else. I know I'm going to do a video probably next month leveraging like bright data to help. Because sometimes sites will block you, and so you have to like change up your IP address and stuff. So I'll probably make kind of like an advanced web scraping tutorial doing some of that stuff next month. So be on the lookout for that. Um, Hopefully that is helpful. I definitely agree it's super helpful to web scrape, but and you're as long as it's public, you're pretty safe. Just don't use like login and sensitive info to web scrape. But also, I guess I'm repeating myself like 20 times here. Just be careful too, because sites might try to like if you're trying to scrape LinkedIn, sites might block your account and stuff. So just be cognizant of that. Don't use log or yeah, just be cognizant of sites, going out of the way to prevent you. All right. Um, let's see. I like this question, kind of switching it up. Um, I'm a fan of your practical real life approach to teaching. I'm happy to hear that you like that. I definitely try to make it as real world as possible. What are you working on at the moment? Um, so I think another question that was recent was why don't you post as much? For most of the past year, I was very hands deep in a startup, largely working on LLMs and basically building like a coach for social media creators, leveraging all this latest and greatest technology. So that took up a ton of my time in the past 12 months. I'm since stepped away from the startup. So now I'm very much focusing on freelancing and consulting projects. So like the most recent video that I published was yeah, a real project that I worked on in the data science NLP space. So I like the data science and freelancing component because it gives me opportunities to do 1 to 2 month um, projects, um, learn skills, learn new skills, and then um, make videos teaching those skills. So I think that there's a challenge with like I'm very much focusing on making more YouTube content, but I think there's a challenge with anyone in the tech space creating content on YouTube is that if you just create content on YouTube, you start losing touch of like what's the current tools. So right now I'm really trying to focus on building my knowledge in all the latest and greatest tools and then making real world-esque tutorials teaching them. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. Let's hit that. Lloyd, thank you for the donation. I will definitely pop this up. Thank you for the super chat. Definitely a way to get yourself. I didn't even read this question yet, um, but definitely a way for me to look at these um, quicker. Build. Okay, my plan. I might have missed your first message. I hope I didn't. Let's see. I'm looking up. Okay. I'm building a financial database so I can eventually query it and make ML and AI projects out of it. In terms of having an accessible portfolio, could I showcase work? Um, let's see. I'm going to try to process this as I understand it. Uh, okay, how could you showcase work with like a financial database? Um, okay, I'm thinking about this as we go. So building a financial database and like showcasing things with it. I think from my perspective, there's a few like interesting aspects here. I think one thing that's really interesting is how large this database is. So, like definitely showcasing that you're able to work with these terabyte plus data sets is very cool for a portfolio. I think like my recommendation is pretty for you is pretty similar to for others. Um, You wanna make this visually interesting, and if you can start there as, like, a starting point, like, how can you showcase what you've done in a visually interesting way? From my perspective, like, seeing stocks over time and, like, seeing interesting maybe, like, segments of, like, maybe you break down, like, what was going on in the world as a stock went up or down and like had kind of a nice visual of like that as part of your project. Like I feel like that would be interesting to show. And that might be like a good launching point where then you can highlight some of the other aspects of the financial database in a very nice put together like README on GitHub. Um, One thing that would be really cool to showcase this project is if you could build an interactive component that people could actually play around with. So maybe using like Streamlit to build some sort of interactive component that's hosted and anyone looking at this can actually play around with and filter through some of the data. It doesn't need to be all 1.2 terabytes, but um, an actual live application people can play with Streamlit or Shiny for Python or any of these other popular tools. Would be really interesting. I know from when I'm reviewing candidates' resumes and whatnot, if they have some sort of interactive thing that I can actually play with, it sets them a leg up. So I think both on like get them interested with a visual component right away, but then having an interactive component to this project. So maybe they could see some of the queries themselves, yeah, play around with things. I think that's what makes a project like this really interesting. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so far only way is using. Um, so there's a couple other questions here. Um, I would use like Streamlit is a Python tool, so Tableau would definitely work too, or Power BI or those. Do what you're comfortable with, and I would think use this as an opportunity to build up some new skills. But yeah, Tableau, showing it visually with Tableau would also be a good starting point. But I am biased towards Python tools. So Shiny for Python, Streamlit, Plotly Dash, some of those tools would be a great way. And then learning how to host and actually have a website people can go to is what I recommend. But yeah, Tableau or Power BI is a good starting point as well. Just get something hosted that people can see and play around with and focus on the aesthetics, focus on it, the design. It's really quite important. All right, let's see. We got like 10 minutes left. Okay. Um, this is a great question given what I was just saying on what I'm working on now. What advice do you have for data science who want to get into freelancing and consulting? Love the question. Thank you, Cole, for sharing this. I think there's a few things that I think about with getting into freelancing and consulting. I think one thing you want to be cognizant of is that this is not going to be like, you know, you decide you want to get into freelancing and consulting and magically the next day you're going to be having a successful career doing this. It's a slow ramp up. It's a slow build. Um, some of my recommendations for getting started is making sure you're familiar with the most common skills that people are asking about. So within the data science realm, I use the platform Upwork for a lot of my freelance work, and what I see a lot of is people that want something automated or some website scraped, or a combination of scraping at a routine schedule, a certain site. So learning how to automate things, running cron jobs in the cloud, running recurring jobs, that's one skill that's very helpful. And then learning the ins and outs of web scraping, another just super marketable skill. So like getting some very common skills like that under your belt is very helpful. And you can kind of judge what those skills are by just looking on a platform like Upworks, what the most common job postings are. So that would be one thing. And then my next recommendation is like you just need to apply to a ton of opportunities. Like with Upwork specifically, like you build a portfolio, you build um, this knowledge base, like people, you build reputation. So like it's easier for me now having 10 plus contracts under my belt on Upwork than it was when I had 0 reviews. So you want to build up your reviews in your portfolio, your resume on Upwork as quickly as possible. And my recommendation to do this is, yeah, apply to as many jobs as possible. But my second recommendation is apply to jobs that are under your pay grade and you're maybe overqualified for. Think of this as like a part of the process to get the higher, the more lucrative contracts. So like there's a lot of jobs where people are paying way underpaying for like a web scraping thing. Maybe they'll pay 20 bucks for like a whole scraping job. Maybe it'll take you a couple hours, whatnot. It's still worth potentially, if you know you can knock that out, still worth doing because while you may not get paid much, it might be basically just volunteer work. You can get a 5-star review out of it. So taking a couple jobs under your pay grade to build up your reputation can sometimes be a not fun, but kind of helpful part of the approach to then being able to land the jobs um, at your asking price, beyond your asking price, and like building it further. So hopefully that's helpful. Learn skills that are most asked for, and then yeah, don't be afraid to start a little bit below your pay grade and work your way up. Once you get going, like my kind of policy now is like just keep raising your hourly rate and until people say no. But you kind of have to start below what you'd actually want for an hourly rate to build that reputation. Uh, Thank you for the question. I appreciate all these very kind comments. I wish I could. I'm definitely going to spend some time like reading through all of them after the stream. So I appreciate it. See some very kind words. So it's awesome to see. It's like I think one thing that I struggle with YouTube. I love teaching, and I've done a ton of tutoring in my professional career. And I love tutoring because it's like one on one or, in a small group with people. And I have that back and forth. I can see when things click in someone's brain right there. YouTube is really interesting because oftentimes, yeah, like even though the video can reach tens of thousands of people, it just doesn't feel quite the same way. Where sometimes I forget there's real, yeah, just different model. It's just like I forget, people are watching this and streams like this are really cool because it's makes it a lot more real, I think, for me. So I appreciate seeing all these questions, seeing all these kind words. Definitely want to do more of these. All right, let me find some more questions to do. Again, I'm probably gonna go like 5 more minutes. Um, ish. Let's see. I see someone said again, feel free to send me connection requests on LinkedIn. Uh, if it, I've haven't accepted your connection request and it's been sitting there for a while, I might honestly recommend if you can just like deleting the connection request and resending it with a text message. I just will always accept the ones that write some sort of note that, hey, I'm coming from YouTube. But if it's just a random connection request and it doesn't have any context or anything, I just sometimes don't know, you know, who the individual is that's requesting. So leave notes whenever you can. Let's see. I like this question here. What do you think are important things to improve skills in the field of data science beyond ML, AI, etc.? Um, I think really an undervalued sometime skill in any sort of tech field are the what do you, is it soft? What am I think? I'm spacing on a word. You got the technical interview and you got the behavioral interview. So I think focusing sometimes on the behavioral skills is underlooked in data science. So a few examples here, like one skill that I'm still very much trying to learn and get better at is project management. How can you organize a project, break it down into concrete tasks, and then, show that to your boss, your manager, and say, "Hey, this is the project, and these are the steps I'm taking to accomplish it." Having that level of organization and also being able to show clear, like, stages of where you're at is incredibly valuable. Um, so building your project management, organization, and communication skills to tell your boss, tell your manager, to be able to very easily, they always know where they can look to see where you're at in the process. Super, super valuable. I use tools like Notion and like Kanban boards to help organize a lot of my work, but I feel like after uh, you know 10 plus years of coding and trying to do this, I'm still learning every day and still trying to get better. So project management is definitely hard, but definitely a good skill. Communication in general, very, very valuable skill. Um, I think the attitude that you bring towards projects, I'm like getting into more behavioral things, but like keeping a positive attitude, thinking of whatever team you're on, like very much treating it as like the best way to succeed is for everyone to succeed together. So helping people, like finding ways to motivate people, keep people like fun and engaged, having fun doing all of this, like very, very valuable. Uh, I think in any career, you're not going to be successful unless you have some sort of interest and like passion for what you're working on. So making sure that you don't stray away from that, you don't do things just because you think they might look good for your resume is very important. So being, I guess, honest to yourself is a good skill. Hopefully, this kind of answers the question. Um, in a technical sense, like I just always recommend, like you can always be a better data scientist by just being a better programmer. So staying up to date on the latest and greatest, developments in Python, JavaScript, Java, like whatever language is your preference, being more of an expert there beyond data science can be very helpful too. All right, it's 12:59 where I'm at right now. So I think I might take one or two more questions. I might try to respond to some too after this. Feel free to leave some of your chat messages as comments on the video, and I'll try to like go through and answer them. Same thing on LinkedIn. I'll try to kind of go through and answer ones that I didn't really hit on. Also, probably try to do this type of live stream more frequently. Uh, um, let's see. Hello, Oso Bear from Mexico. Um, what's the next question I should do? I think I see a question. There's so many good questions here. This is a little bit of a different question. Hi, Keith. I get the feeling that people in the community tends to be a full stack programmer, kind of using front end tools and also using PySQL to build back end running analysis programs. Is it doable? I think this is a great question because I think it can be overwhelming the amount of things to learn, and it just, yeah, it just feels overwhelming the amount of skills to learn. Um, Obviously, you can aim to be a full stack programmer, but I think that like you're probably going to find more success focusing on a specific area. So either focusing on the front end or focusing on the back end, or like data science, like focusing on a niche thing, but kind of being very relatively familiar with other tools, but not needing to be an expert. That being said, one recommendation I would have um, is like be a full stack programmer in the context of being able to build like demos and like um, MVPs, like just very rough, raw, full scale applications. So like I'm not a JavaScript expert by any means, but I can build applications that are interactive using tools like Streamlit, using tools like even like Tkinter, like things that have like a UI component, but like maybe the UI looks pretty terrible. Um, but then I can do the Python behind the scenes, but at least I can show the full scale thing. And then once people have an idea of what this application does, then I can hire, let's say, or the company I'm working at can hire a front end engineer to make things look more pretty on the front end side. So I would say like you're probably gonna have more success actually focusing on specific areas, but I think it is good to build a like have at least a familiarity enough with tools that you can build like rough prototypes of the full pipeline. Another application that I used a lot recently with kind of integrating database components, Python and SQL, and like a UI is this platform called Retool, Retool. I feel like that let me set up applications and like ways to view data and whatnot very easily without having to actually know much on the front end. So might be an interesting thing to look up on the front end is Retool, in addition to tools like Streamlit or Shiny for Python or Plotly Dash. Cool. I think that that's probably where we're going to call it. Um, let me see. Maybe I'll do one or two more like kind of fun personal ones that I saw. All right. Let's see. I liked this question on LinkedIn. If you weren't allowed to do programming or create content, what would you do? A few things. I love teaching in general, so I feel like I'm allowed to teach still. So I would likely be like a math teacher at probably like a high school level. I would love to teach calculus, and I still may do this, in the future. Um, I think as a math teacher, I would probably also coach hockey, ice hockey. I think that it's so incredibly important to uh, follow passions beyond technical and job. So pursuing something more seriously like ice hockey as a coach would be something I would love to do. I think career wise, if I wasn't a teacher or wasn't like a hockey coach, I just love being active, doing different, physical things. So I could see myself being like a physical trainer, or maybe not a physical trainer, physical therapist, helping people feel healthier to do their sports. This is a fun question though. Let's see. I think that this is just a funny question. How did you achieve your advanced height? Asking for a short friend. Not many people I feel like know this. I feel like I've asked a poll on my Instagram before, or maybe my YouTube of like how tall I am. Uh, and I'm 6'3". I forget what that converts to in, I guess not kilometers and meters. Uh, 6'3" in meters, 1.9 meters. I'm pretty tall, but no one realizes it because I'm just sitting here at the computer. But that was Ken G that asked that question. So shout out to him. All right. I think those were some fun questions. I think I'm probably going to, as someone says, use AI to filter out comments. I might find a way to pipeline and be able to like answer the most questions as possible by grouping things. That'd be a fun thing to do in another live stream. But I think I'm probably call the stream. I can't speak, so it's probably a good stopping point. Well, I'm going to call the stream there. This has been super fun. So I appreciate everyone asking a lot of great questions. I apologize I couldn't get to all of them. I'll try to do some answering more after the fact in the comments. Thank you everyone for attending. Super fun. We'll do some more. Leave ideas for future live streams, future projects. the more ideas I get, I feel like the more ideas I'll have to make content, and like I just feel like I'll be more consistent. So cool. All right. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the weekend. Do something fun today. Peace.